In this video, I have a special guest with me that's going to teach you all about flexible dieting and how you can use flexible dieting in your own diet routine and workout program to get amazing results and still eat the foods you like. So let's get started. Hey guys, so I'm here with Amer Kamra. I've been following him for quite a while now, and he has amazing results when it comes to coaching people, training people, getting people ready for competitions. And why don't you just give a little overview of your background?
Yeah, sure. So I've been coaching people for about 10 years now, online and offline, in person. And I've dedicated my life to coaching, specifically fat loss and getting people in their peak shape physically and mentally, right? Teaching people the psychology, teaching people the physiology behind dieting, how to get them in their best shape and sustain that best shape for long periods of time. So I've coached people now through all levels, whether it's a general lifestyle type of coaching, at a basic level, someone just wanting to get in shape for themselves, for a wedding, for anything of their personal goals. But then as well, I've coached people all the way up to the iifym pro level, people all the way, in pro shows, in bodybuilding, in men's physique, in bikini. So I've coached people, at all different levels, on all different scales. I've worked with some celebrities as well. So the prime of my business is online at the moment.
Yeah, and Amer has like a crazy amount of experience, and I've seen his transformations, and they're really amazing. Like you see the before and after pictures, and it's crazy the kind of results he helps people get. So in this interview, I just wanted to talk to you a bit about flexible dieting. I know that's like a point where people get mixed up about, and they're not sure what it means. Are they allowed to eat pizza all day? Because there's all these fitness personalities online these days that they post pictures of pizzas, and they're eating at McDonald's and all these burgers and cakes or sweets. And then I feel that a lot of people see that, and then they go and start eating all this junk food, and they end up gaining fat and not the results, and then they get all mixed up.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I think, I'm a huge proponent, first of all, put that out there, of flexible dieting.
Sure.
But I think people don't understand what the true meaning of it is, right? So people are very quick to judge and discredit it and say that's not a good method of dieting. And then you have people that, are all over it and all over, but there's just two ends of the extremists, right? And two opposite ends of the spectrum. And with everything, the truth lies somewhere in the middle, right? My theory on it and my paradigm on flexible dieting is that I believe it works. I know it works. It's, worked for many of my athletes, but it works. And it's superior to bro dieting, which is, for most of you that don't know, is, the same food 6 times a day. Fish and tilapia and asparagus 6 times a day, right? And the reason why a dieting like that works is because you're eating so minimal amounts of food. Mm-hmm. You have very limited fats, very limited carbs. And that's what dieting is. It's essentially starvation. So you're eating very little and you're doing a lot of cardio, you're doing a lot of training, you're going to get lean regardless. But with something like flexible dieting, it gives you options. I don't believe in eating, junk food and donuts. I'm not a big proponent of that, but I'm a big advocate of eating foods that are conducive to health, foods that are conducive to micronutrient optimization. So,
Sure.
When you do have a variety of foods in your diet and a wide spectrum and array of foods, you end up getting leaner easier because you're getting the micronutrients, the microminerals that you need in your diet. Where, from eating the same food over and over, you're only getting a limited amount of nutrients. You're only getting a limited amount of amino acids, a limited amount of specific types of vitamins. There's only, for us to get all the vitamins and nutrients we need in our diets on a day-to-day basis, we need to eat 30,000 calories a day, right? And that's not humanly possible.
Yeah.
So we need a variety of foods in our diets, and people will argue and say, well, eating, bread is worse than eating sweet potato. By what measure? What are we using to gauge that? And that's what we need to quantify what good means. And people don't understand, it's really dieting in this industry has come down to people doing the same thing over and over because they heard someone else do it 30 years ago. But, we've evolved a lot, and every single sport in the world has evolved tremendously from 30 years ago. If we look at the times of Olympic sprinters 30 years ago till now, we've evolved tremendously. The track, the shoes that we use, the training that we use has evolved.
There's new science coming out, new research.
Absolutely. So what we know now, we didn't know 30 years ago, and we must evolve and adapt to that rather than be stuck in this monotonous, simple-minded approach to doing things.
So how do you think should people best approach flexible dieting? Should they just try to figure out how to add a meal here and there or a few times a week?
Well, I do have a book on it, but it's very simple anyways. You could Google it and figure it out. I've just simplified it in a book. But if I could give anyone advice, this is not me promoting a book, it's just giving you advice, is to learn what your starting point is. What are you currently eating? Figure out how many carbs, protein, fat, fiber, calories you're consuming on a day-to-day basis. Get that in an app. There are many apps out there. You can Google, macro tracking apps. Figure out what your current macronutrients are, and then start playing with different foods and add foods in, because flexible dieting is not flexible in the sense where you can go and eat whatever you want. It's flexible in the sense where you're still hitting your macronutrient allotments.
But you can just find the right foods that still meet those macronutrients.
So it actually, one thing that I like about it is, psychologically speaking, we are far more inclined to wanting things we can't have, right? So when you restrict and deprive and suppress yourself from many different foods, we want that tenfold. So because you have the option to have many different foods and you haven't deprived yourself of them, because if you really wanted something, you could fit it within your macronutrient allotment, you can have it. Therefore, that need to want something you can't have is no longer there. You've eliminated that, which makes dieting easier from a psychological standpoint. Most people don't even know what a calorie is. A calorie is simply a measurement. It's not a physical quantity, right? So a calorie is just a measurement, just like kilometers per hour, right? You can't touch kilometers per hour. It's just a measurement to gauge how your body responds to the food you're consuming, right? So when we don't need to be 100% absolute. I do think there's a leeway, and also within every food that we consume, there's a variance, right? There's no absolute. It's an estimate of how it responds in the body, how much energy is required to heat up the food that you're consuming and burn it and oxidize it. Yes, and oxidize it and convert it into actual usable, viable energy, right? So I don't think you need to be absolute, but I think you need to be consistent more than anything, right? Consistency trumps everything. So if you're consistent with what you're doing, it's a lot easier to gauge what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong and how you can make appropriate and necessary changes. If you're not consistent, it's very difficult to make appropriate changes to what you're doing, because we don't know what is the cause and what the effect of what's going on is. So we need consistency as your base and as your foundation, and then from there we can work up or downward.
Awesome. Well, that was really good information. I'm sure you guys enjoyed it. Do more research on the topic and see how you can use flexible dieting in your own routine and in your own diet plan. And where can people find more information about you?
Amer the Hammer on all social media platforms, or Amer Kamra.
Yeah, and you should also follow his YouTube channel. He has some really great videos there. And thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Great having you.
Thank you.
Hopefully you guys take this information that Amer just gave you about flexible dieting, put it into your routine, learn more about it. As I always like to say, a life worth living is a life worth improving, and go and get some abs now.
If you enjoy watching Ben's videos, make sure you subscribe to his channel so you can stay updated to all the amazing videos he posts on a regular basis. You will learn so many things, and one thing I can tell you, all your dreams will come true. Chakra out.